The whole world is dealing with a global crisis, also known as COVID-19 pandemic, which is proving itself to be more disastrous each passing day. As if this catastrophic pandemic was not enough, there is a regular occurrence of devastating calamities, either natural or man-made, causing havoc in the lives of every living being alive. It had terrified people to such an extent that all are eagerly awaiting the end of the year 2020.
Hello everybody, my name is Jaidev Parmar and today I'm your host for this wonderful channel where we are going to explore things from both science and religion. The name of this channel is AstroMythology. Here we are going to tell you something about science and something about religion. What we believe is there is some myth in science and there is some truth in myth. So astromythology is a combination of myth and science to come to a truth. And in this introductory video, we are going to tell you something which I believe you will find extremely interesting and relevant for humanity and for all living things on earth. Our religions put a lot of emphasis on our behavior. The religious people or the people who have created the religions have given a lot of importance on good behavior of the people. And their claim is that all our troubles today, all the natural calamities are happening because of bad behavior and the decadence of the society. Now, all the religions say that, not only mine or his, all. Now, is it possible that all these religions, what they are saying, does it have some common origin? Or is it that just by some random chance, all are saying the same thing? Everybody is saying that their particular religion has a prediction for calamity that would come in the future. We are not much concerned about the origins of the belief systems of individual religions. Rather, we want to see if there is a common origin to the belief systems, whether they belong to an Indian American, to an African, to a European, to an Arabian, Egyptian, Chinese, Indian or Australian. Everywhere there seems to be a lot of similarity in the myths of individual cultures. So we would like to see if there is any point where they could probably converge, and if there is such a point, then what would it look like? It's like the story, the fable of 5 blind men and an elephant. What we are trying to see is whether these 5 wise men who are touching the different parts of an elephant and describing the elephant in their own language, in say one is touching the feet and saying it's like a pillar, and the other is touching the tail and saying that it's like a rope. So we would like to see if we can get a holistic picture of the whole elephant. So that is the idea that we would try to, we would try to get the idea, the whole idea, from studying all the different mythologies.
Stoics, who believe in Stoicism, that is ancient Greek philosophies about self-control and fortitude as a means to overcome destructive emotions, believed in ekpyrosis, that is, in the periodic destruction of the cosmos, universe as a whole. By a great conflagration every great year, the cosmos is then recreated only to be destroyed again at the end of the new cycle. This Greek philosophy of ekpyresis is being supported by many belief systems, either explicitly or implicitly. Belief systems that explicitly support ekpyresis are Hinduism and Buddhism. In Hinduism, the Hindus believe in the world repeatedly destroyed in Pralaya and then subsequently recreated. The cycle continues indefinitely. In Buddhism, the Buddhists don't believe in a beginning or an end. There are cycles of creation followed by destruction. Similar to these belief systems, Norse community also believes in the continuous cycles of creation and destruction of the cosmos. Some belief systems do not believe in the cycles of creation and destruction, but rather have prophecies by the prophets about the events which would take place in the future, thus ascribing to ekpyresis implicitly. Abrahamic and Native American are examples of such belief systems.
We can also see the similarities between the Egyptian account of Ipuwer and the Jewish account as written in the King James Version of the Bible. We are talking about Exodus of the Jews from Egypt.
As per Immanuel Velikovsky, just like the current times, there are instances of occurrences of calamities in the past that are mentioned in the Holy Scriptures and ancient inscriptions. One such experience is the Jewish and Egyptian experience. In the testimony of Ipuwer, who is an Egyptian sage and an eyewitness, is giving an account of the plagues allegedly during the time of Exodus of the Jews from Egypt. He describes the situation from an Egyptian perspective. At the time of its writing, Egypt was in distress. The social system had become disorganized. Violence filled the land. Invaders preyed upon the defenseless population. The rich were stripped of everything and slept in the open, and the poor took their possessions. It was not merely local disturbance, but a great and overwhelming national disaster which destroyed the masses. An Egyptian account of the same destruction is also mentioned in the Egyptian hieroglyph, a pictorial writing system used in ancient times, especially in ancient Egypt, of which we gathered a few excerpts. The land was in great distress. Evil fell on this earth. It was a great upheaval in the residence. Nobody left the palace during 9 days, and during these 9 days of upheaval, there was such a violent windy storm that neither the men nor the gods could see the faces of the next. We can find commonalities between this experience and the Indian account of Navratri, where the goddess Durga challenged the evil demon Mahishasura, who had a boon that no man in all the 3 worlds could defeat him, and fought for 9 days and killed him in the 10th day. During the time of upheaval, the Amalekites ruled in Mecca, and from their central position on the Great Peninsula dominated other Arabian tribes. The Amalekites were put to fight by plagues that fell upon them in Arabia, and in their escape they followed swift clouds. Meanwhile, Mecca was destroyed in a single night, filled with a terrible uproar of calamities. The land became a desert in haste and disorder, fleeing the ominous signs and plagues and driving their herds of animals infuriated by earthquakes and evil portents. The Amalekites reached the shores of the Red Sea. Plagues of insects, drought, earthquake in the night, clouds sweeping the ground, a tidal flood carrying away entire tribes. These disturbances and upheavals were experienced in Arabia and Egypt alike. The tradition is handed down by Abul Faraj in Kitab al-Ghanai, Book of Songs.
There are certain regional mythologies around the world which perhaps indicate that there was a global destruction simultaneously that had happened all over the world, and these myths were created at that time.
The Babylonian mythology of Enuma Elish describes Hoe Marduk after challenging the leader of the Anunnaki gods. the dragon of the primordial sea Tiamat, to single combat and defeating her by trapping her with his net, blowing her up with his winds, and piercing her belly with an arrow, became their primary god. Another mythology is from India. The legend of the Jyotirlinga, the pillar of, is one of the most enduring myths of the Puranas and is told many times in various settings. It recounts the appearance of the first Shivalinga, which pierced the three worlds as a brilliant shaft of light and was witnessed by Brahma and Vishnu, causing major destruction in its wake. A Chinese mythology also tells a similar tale, as the Yunanzi tells an ancient story about how the four pillars that support the sky crumbled inexplicably and caused great destruction.
Up till now, we have pointed out various scriptures and mythologies of the various cultures of the world. Now, we would like to give them a scientific explanation, and for that we turn to the science of astrophysics. Astrophysics is the study of the cosmos and the underlying chemical and physical principles with which the celestial bodies interact with each other and with the earth.
Like the earth revolves around the sun in turn moves around the center of the Milky Way. The mean motion of the material in the solar neighborhood, radius of around 100 parsecs or 326 light years from the sun, is called local standard of rest, in short LSR, and it is about 202 to 241 km per second. Relative to the LSR, the sun moves towards the solar apex at around 14 km per second or approximately 50,000 km per hour. The general direction of the solar apex is southwest of the star Vega, near the constellation of Hercules and Cygnus, that is Vishnu and Brahma. Thus, we can say that the solar apex is close to the North Pole. The sun continuously sends solar wind in all directions. As the sun proceeds towards the solar apex, the solar wind pushes and accelerates the interstellar medium ahead of the path of the sun and creates a bubble called the heliosphere around the sun. The solar wind forms various structures around the solar system like termination shock, heliopause, hydrogen wall, Bose shock, etc. The hydrogen wall is formed due to the accumulation of hydrogen as the momentum of the wind gets transferred to the interstellar material of LSR. The solar wind from the sun is not constant. It varies in cycles in predictable and unpredictable, chaotic ways. For example, the sunspot activity chart for the last 400 years has both predictable 11-year solar cycles and long-term unpredictable grand solar minimums, which lead to mini ice ages on Earth. It is observed that the solar wind output decreases considerably during the solar minimums. Let us analyze what would happen if, due to some unknown reason, the solar wind ceases or gets reduced. Once the solar wind stops, then clearly the hydrogen wall at the solar apex will stop at its last location. Since the sun is moving towards the solar apex in time along with all the planets, it will collide with the accumulated hydrogen wall at 50,000 km per hour speed. Even if it is just a wall of light hydrogen gas, the collision will wreak havoc due to the extremely high velocity of impact. Example, a small bird causes enormous damage to a flying airplane due to the speed of the aircraft. There will be a series of cataclysmic earthquakes as the impact deforms the earth. Since the solar apex is in the north direction relative to the earth, the collision with earth will happen in the northern direction. If we are to witness the phenomena, we will observe that the hydrogen gas encircles the entire earth, although hydrogen is not visible in molecular form. It should be noted that in this case, it could consist of a mixture of hydrogen plasma and space dust and hence could be of visible color. This hydrogen would encircle other planets too. When the planets collide with the hydrogen wall, they will suddenly light up and thus become like stars, sun, and this is recorded as Nibiru by Sumerians and the seven sons of Hindu and Buddhist eschatology. The impact will create a huge global tsunami going from south to north. All the coastal regions facing south will be utterly inundated and destroyed, as is recorded by Hyksos Arabians. Not only water, but even land masses will be pushed to the north. Thus we see most of the land mass on earth is in the northern hemisphere. Hence, we could speculate this has happened repeatedly in the past. The upper atmosphere will start to burn with the reaction between the oxygen of air and hydrogen from the wall. The water vapor formed high up will condense quickly and form hailstones. The porous but large hailstones will trap hydrogen within their structure and start to rain down on the surface. The hydrogen on reaching the Earth's surface will ignite and burn, thus forming the rain of both fire and ice. This is mentioned in the scriptures. The hailstones will utterly destroy all vegetation and the fire will be uncontrollable and extremely destructive. After stabilization, the hydrogen gas in the upper atmosphere will look like a burning column in the north, where its concentration is the highest. It will continue burning and emit light during the night, but in the day be covered in dark cloud as it is forming water vapor. This phenomena is depicted in the Egypt experience of Joshua passing the river Jordan with the Ark of the Covenant, and in the Indian mythology of Jyotirlinga, Shiva as the pillar of fire. This will be accompanied by strong northwest winds, storms, hurricanes, lightning and rain. The hot hydrogen plasma inside the hydrogen wall and the reactions happening at between hydrogen and oxygen in the upper atmosphere will raise the temperature of the upper atmosphere and will trigger the formation of nitrogen oxides. These nitrogen oxides have the color of blood depending on temperature. The reddish brown nitrogen dioxide dissolved in rainwater or condensed as the liquid will rain and will make the rain and subsequently the water bodies look like blood. The low pH will kill aquatic animals. The various reactions in the atmosphere due to plasma interaction on an unprecedented scale would lead to depressurization of the whole earth, leading to a phenomenon of boiling oceans due to the outgassing of dissolved air in the oceans. Not only in geological bodies but even biological organisms will be affected. The depressurization will lead to the formation of nitrogen bubbles in the bodies of animals, leading to Bend's disease. In colder climates, this would lead to flash freezing of animals, as is observed in flash frozen mammoths of Siberia. Only small animals, children, who can rapidly remove nitrogen due to their higher metabolism will survive. There would be considerable fatalities to the megafauna, including adult humans, leading to utter loss of life, society and culture. The periodic global natural catastrophes are recurrent. Human-made disasters like wars follow the natural disaster. In the ensuing chaos, the societal elite are almost entirely eliminated and society enters a period of dark age. During these dark times of crisis, humans have taken refuge and solace in the ark of faith and religion. Religions have provided hope, endurance, and strength to people at the time of chaos, upheaval, destruction, and death. Prophets, shamans, monks, rishis, sages, clergy, druids, and similar have acted as repositories of knowledge, tradition, and wisdom of the past ages. These erudite scholars have created our scriptures like the Old and New Testament, Vedas, Puranas, Quran, etc., based on their observations and experiences. Unfortunately, they also hijack rational and liberal attitude of the society. Vested interests twist and contort these scriptures to further their own interest. The rural hinterland survives somehow. The meek inherit the world and overwhelmingly renew their commitment to their religions. And the cycle continues. Is the human society forever doomed to be trapped between the vicious cycle between slow progress and steep downfall? When the great natural disaster occurs, the predictions mentions might happen have reverted to animal instincts bent on survival, the four horses of apocalypse. All the modern amenities that we have come to depend upon so heavily for survival, like clean municipal water, electricity, communication, transport, food distribution, healthcare system, etc., will be utterly destroyed. Only rural, simple, uneducated societies who live in self-sufficient cooperative religious community settings will survive, taking humans back to the dark ages. As is said, the meek shall inherit the earth. The great civilizations of past, Sumerians, Egyptians, Indus, Chinese, Greek, Roman, are all wiped out, become a footnote in annals of time. Our name will be next.
To conclude, we can be sure that the holy books attest to the truth and are beyond any iota of doubt. Yet, like the parable of the blind man and the elephant, the scholars of the past have described the same cataclysmic events of the past with their own subjective experiences, biases, and their individual traditions. We as humanity suffer the same scars of the past destructions. For the prevention of loss of life to human as well as all living beings, we need to take some precautionary steps. Some of the precautionary steps that we could take are as follows. We need to recognize the threat of reduced solar activity to us. We as a society could prevent a catastrophic collapse if we start to prepare from today. We need to store the genetic information of the biodiversity of the earth, of all plants, animals, microbes, and everything that is possible. We need to store the genetic information in our archives. We need to take steps to conserve all sorts of animals and plants on this earth. We need to do research in this area. We need to engage society at all levels, religions, governments, NGOs, community at local level. Engage with them, educate them, prepare them so that they become more self-reliant and are able to withstand any calamity that could befall. Society and our behavior needs to be transformed and made such that we become resilient and are able to withstand natural calamities as they come. At the end, I would just like to say that we are very lucky that our sun is still going very strong and we have no reason to fear any impending calamity in our near future. But we do need to prepare. We need to transform and we need to take care of all our beautiful living things on this earth. Thank you so much.